had a recession, and it appears that it's much more difficult to pull out of the sluggishness of the economy than a lot of people thought. Do you think there's something fundamentally wrong with the American economic system?
No, there's something fundamentally wrong with the policies that are being followed. They're trying to relive the New Deal of the 1930s, and the New Deal of the 1930s didn't work. So, I mean, most people, there's this narrative out there that the reason we had massive unemployment in the 30s was because the market failed, the stock market crashed, and you had all this tremendous unemployment. Now, it so happens that for the 12 months following the stock market crash, we never hit double digits in unemployment. Unemployment peaked at 9% 2 months after the stock market crash and started going down. So the unemployment rate was down to 6.3% when the federal government figured it had to intervene. And that's when the downward movement reversed, and we never saw 6.3% again for the next decade. So, I mean, if you follow the actual month-by-month employment numbers, it's just clear as crystal that the disaster came after federal intervention.
So you think that government intervention in this case and in previous cases, but let's just talk about what's going on right now, has actually made things worse. I mean, it's the reason that unemployment is as high as it is today. It would be lower if government hadn't done anything in 2008.
Yes, well, you can look again. You can look at the numbers. One of the figures, I think, the unemployment figures really understate how much unemployment there is because there are people who simply stop looking. But the figure that I like is the one: what percentage of the adult population have jobs? And that figure has been declining steadily ever since the stimulus began. It's one of the many things where words trump reality. There's no sign that the stimulus has stimulated anything. Businesses have record amounts of money sitting idle. Banks have record amounts of money sitting idle. The public is saving more so than ever before. The velocity of circulation of money is lower than it's been in 50 years. So to me, you can call it a stimulus. If you look at what happens, it's a sedative.
A sedative, I like that. And the sedative, is that the result of the fact that businesses feel uncertainty or they don't want to invest?
Absolutely. I mean, how could you not feel uncertainty when Congress and the president are constantly dreaming up new bright ideas they want to try? You have no idea what the rules of the game are going to be. And when you generate that kind of uncertainty, people sit on their money and wait to see how things sort out.
Talk about President Obama. Do you think he's a socialist?
No, not technically, I suppose, because socialism usually means the government ownership of the means of production. The pattern he's following is much more like that of the fascists, where the government leaves the means of production in private hands and the politicians tell them what to do. And that's much more politically viable because after the government forces the private industry to do something and it turns out disastrously, you can always haul the people from private industry up before congressional committees, denounce them on television and so forth, leaving out the fact that it was you who forced them to do what they did.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about how you see President Obama as a leader, because there were certainly very high hopes, and I think they were broadly shared about him as a leader. And yet, how do you think he's turned out?
Terrible. But those hopes weren't based on anything he'd actually done. I mean, if you look at, I was telling my wife about the irony of Martin Luther King's thing that you should be judged by the content of your character rather than the color of your skin. If he'd been judged by the content of his character, he would never have made it through the primaries. I mean, if this medical thing goes through, and if you look at the other things that he wants along with it, including this notion that no one seems to pay much attention to, he wants to have a federal police force comparable in size to the military. And what is that for? When you think of these various tendencies of people who, czars doing this and czars doing that, people we know nothing about and who don't go through confirmation. I mean, this is really dismantling all the safeguards that were built into the Constitution to stop arbitrary power.